all that what we speak of as spiritual experiences, they can be grouped, maybe in 3 groups even. And in the first group, the experiences that all comprises all these visions, visitations, having distinctive form, distinctive appearances, right? All these experiences are simply belong to the psychic realm. These are psychic experiences. Then the second category is much more subtle. The second category are the true experiences proper in terms of calling them spiritual experiences. These are the experiences of sound, light, indeed geometrical forms, patterns, experiences of, at the higher level of that, of the connecting to the tattvas of the templates, the refinement of perception. And the third category is the depths of absorption.
Yeah, it's a vulnerable question because it's about my internal process. I would love some guidance and maybe adjustment. I feel like I've gotten in my head a little bit. The question about inner guidance, the Hall of Mirrors, it's like, and then also the guidance to Lindsay about about the Kriyas. And then also, I mean, thank you for the talk about Spanda. That's just been like, it's like, so I can feel. So my question is, there's like these different themes I'm experiencing. So there's the Kriyas, the, this kind of, I mean, it is feeling like an obsession about this kind of archetypal unfolding that really has been going on my whole life, but really kicked off last year. And I think I talked to you about the triangles, and that was like a good thing. And it's like, so there's that. And then it feels like since I've been here, there's been this like, I mean, just vibrations that feel like I'm like gonna, spin out, you know what I mean? It's like, and like lift off. And it feels good because it's like feeding, it's like giving life force to these archetypal energies. And then also feels like my Kriyas are going into these different geometric patterns. And I mean, I'm like really into it, you know what I mean? And so my question is like, I mean, the Kriyas were like really going, right? And so I've been kind of working with that more in the, what did you call it? The Kunda? Khanda. Yes, I think I'm just like a little in my head. Like I felt like I was like really, I mean, I feel like I know what's happening, but then I was like, oh, what about the Hall of Mirrors, right? Like, what if I've like kind of gone in this like whole thing, and I can feel this other levels opening up. So I don't know if I need to say more, if that makes sense.
I understand. So perhaps I should have made it explicitly for Lancy alone when I've made that suggestion before our morning sitting. So that when I said it's relevant to everyone, not that it meant to be immediately implemented, right? It's just simply to become aware or to be aware that there is this potential where the prana can just begin to scatter us around. And there's nothing wrong with that, because at some point it's very good to loosen up. It's very good to loosen up, and this loosening up is often accompanied this pranic realignment. And so it's like, it's proverbial in the way that Kundalini, let's say, language, right? Not at the somatic level. It's very well known. People roll on the floor, right? In the earlier phases, it's all like that. It's very well known. And those of you here, some of you went through that process when it was chaotic all over the place. So I never go and start adjusting this or suggesting. Only when I could feel, okay, now is the time to give more, let's say, direction. Sometimes it's just one single thing said and it does the job. You know, like one little tweak here and it just completely does the job. And it's remarkable because without that, it can just continue, and there's no end to that. See? So it was specifically addressed so that Lindsay was with us here last year, and Lindsay was also with us in Germany, which is great kudos. Came there with her husband Chuck. It was great to meet both of you there. So I felt it's the time to give that tweak, that adjustment. See? With some in whom that vertical propensity is so strong that they're taken immediately. Sometimes the guidance is given that the movement goes not just vertically upwards, even though it canonically spoken, because that's all that shaft of Sushumna and the rest of it. But there is this movement as well, and this is the movement that allows to leave no areas, as it were, unvisited. And also it creates a greater ground. It grounds us. In order to rise, there has to be a good, steady ground. Also subject to constitutional setup for the Vata constitution in particular, attention needs to be taken so that neurophysiology can withstand. You know, otherwise it can burn very quickly. So a lot of these things to consider. So when I spoke about this, it's for the general knowledge at some point. But let's say there's a process. Like I wouldn't say that to Jake. There's something else. I wouldn't say that to Kamala. I wouldn't say that to many others here because it's not necessary. See? So don't let this to become an imposition. Oh, now I have to watch my kriyas. See? So this is a subtle line between where do I let go and where do I introduce this, let's say, a more focal point. You know, do I allow the pranic movements as they are, or do I funnel that? That guidance will come. Guidance of which we spoke. First, I think, full day, right? And when that guidance comes, it will be very clear. Every movement, everything you do would be not from the place of mentation, but actually your hands, your body will do things before the mind can catch up with what's going on. It will always be post factum. It will be just like marveled. Oh, why did I do that? Well, because it's good. All right. So it's like mind will almost feel slightly embarrassed because it always feels as if it's ahead of everything. It's a champion, it's the boss. It's suddenly like the management is so good that everyone does what needs to be done, and the mind is like, we've done that, sir. Okay, what about speak and span? Never mind, you know, like, never mind. Ha. So, just that common kind of, you know, feet on the ground sense. Don't question unduly what's unfolding.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like I felt out of control. You know what I mean? My head is like whipping everywhere. I mean, I was like, vibrating in ways I've never really felt before. So
It will come even. It could come even more. You see, could come even more. So it could make you feel very dizzy, spaced out. That's okay. That in these programs, we try to make as much, I would say, quantum leap as possible. Like literally, like enough for a whole year. But the leap is beyond the whole year. What can be done in 10 days' time in this kind of program, yeah, lifetime, certainly. But in a sense of that hum that is left there, that resonance, it stays with each and every one of us for a very long time. But what cannot be done at home, here is the perfect container, completely, utterly designed for that. So this is why it's in a way a kind of place to let your hair down without worrying too much.
thank you. And about the archetypal, these like visions, it feels like my body's going into these different unfoldment of geometries, and there's like this whole, I don't know, I guess there's a story involved, and there's like an initiatory process and a certain culture and time and a certain goddesses of that time, and it's like really ancient memories, and but it's like I just remember getting guidance like don't attach too much to the visions. And so but I feel myself like so pulled, and then I know we're talking about this is where I get in the head, right? So and then you're hearing about it's normal to have these archetypal energies, and then the samavesha and the it feels good, and it feels like it's this archetypal goddess is taking me more into the spanda, which feels like the next piece. And so, I mean, this is all, I've just been, coming up with this in my own guidance. And so I just wanted to make sure I'm not off on some wild ride.
Yeah. So maybe it will be fitting here to share something I've heard secondhand. An interaction between Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and one of the, let's say, of his students who was sharing. In fact, lady was Indian. You might remember that, Gail, that story. You might have heard that because it's circulated in the movement. She was, like Maharishi was answering questions, right? Course participants, this advanced course, and so she's raising her hand and she sharing this experience that she had. That like she's riding an elephant, and there's an elephant, and then she's like sitting in the whole thing, and she's like in this entourage, and she goes on and on. It's like there's parading people, there's this armies, there's this and that, and Rishi patiently sitting there listening, totally unfazed by it all. And then suddenly there is this thunder, like thunder, rocking thunder. So, have you finished, dear? Right? She said, yes. She wants to hear the significance of all these experiences, all this vision. So Maharishi says, never mind, don't worry about the elephant and all the rest of it. The most important thing is the thunder. Remember that? No? The most important thing is the thunder. So, why? The thunder, this sound of the thunder, it's an experience when and very well known in the awakened, very active Kundalini when higher cortexes open up and it is experienced as thunder. Literally rocking thunder in the head. So this is why, like, this whole story of the elephants. Don't worry about the elephant and the army and the parades and the rajas and all the ornaments. Thunder is important. That's all. Remember that. Why I'm bringing this illustration here? Because it's so telling. In a rich gamut of spiritual experiences, it's very easy to get lost in the projected aspect of these experiences, which is simply something playing out, prompted by imagination, prompted by a lot of other factors. Some of us are much more prone to this associative thinking, right? And all that information there. But there are spiritual experiences that are in the category of where they truly herald something. Maybe it will be helpful to bring this as a reminder that all that what we speak of as spiritual experiences, they can be grouped. They can be grouped, maybe in 3 groups even. Like really, if we kind of give that very big overview. And in the first group, the experiences that all comprises all these visions, visitations, having distinctive form, distinctive appearances, right? All these experiences are simply belong to the psychic realm. These are psychic experiences. Then the second category is much more subtle. The second category are the true experiences proper in terms of calling them spiritual experiences. These are the experiences of sound, light, indeed geometrical forms, patterns, experiences of, at the higher level of that, of the connecting to the tattvas of the templates, the refinement of perception. And the third category is the depths of absorption. So in other words, it has nothing to do anymore with anything that often have that slightly dismissal kind of ways of speaking about it, fireworks. But many teachers out there, including like Eckhart Tolle, like non-dual teachers, use that, all these fireworks. That's what it means, fireworks. So in that third category, the experiences are not of any of that kind. They're neither psychic experiences, nor experiences to do with revealing the subtler structure, but only to do with something which is very difficult to put your finger on even. These are the, we could say, the most telling experiences. Like you ask me, what? Give me an example. For instance, simply feeling deep sense of communion with everything. Deep sense of intimacy. An acute sense of presence. Heightened sense of presence. Just simply being aware. Fully aware. These are real. This is the real deal. Because this is what really is then stays with you. Everything else comes and goes. This is what really heralds that, what we speak of as being established. Integrating. So we don't want to dismiss any of the, let's say, in some of the psychic experiences can be very telling at that level. because they can reveal certain information that is required for us to put, let's say, behind certain experiences that somehow were there serving us a blind eye, right? As somehow casting shadow, unexplainable sense of inadequacy or fear or what have you, right? This can all be cleared in these psychic experiences, so we don't want to dismiss that. But at the very same time, we don't want to give them undue value and bring them into kind of like, what is it leading, what is it, no. Never mind the elephant, but thunder is good.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the visions feel like they're building this like geometry. So just try to, like, it feels like it's serving some purpose in building the subtlety, but I can't I wanted to check in because I can't tell if it's the attachment to it. You know what I mean? So
Just enjoy it.
then just enjoy it.
Just enjoy it. Yes,
Okay.
completely. Just that.
Yeah. And then the goddess or like part of that archetypal time, I'm like, is that the Ishta Devata? You know what I mean? Or is this part of the psychic? This kind of, it's been like a theme for, lifetimes, just like the same, it's like, so maybe it's just ending. I don't know. So I'll just sit with it again and see. But I did feel a breakthrough today in what you're talking about, because it felt like it went, the Sponda thing is really, that teaching is really calling me deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will continue with that, of course. We'll complete that picture to begin with, and maybe expand this further into correlate that to also why there are and how there are these clearly distinctive degrees of how the teaching is imparted and how one learns as well when we talk about the upayas. But it will be good to complete the picture of these phases of consciousness, because these wheels of Shakti are the phases of consciousness, the stages of consciousness, realms of consciousness. Each and every one of them is unique because of the expressive potentiality where the powers behind these wheels of energy, these very, very Shaktis that carry this through. So we will go into the outer periphery, but I will do another drawing. So it's good that there's this resonance, because it could come across as just like a map, another map, and get lost in it. But it's superimposable, and we'll do that straight onto our own structure here. So I would just suggest you simply enjoy the ride, enjoy this unfoldment of these structures, superstructures, and we'll talk about it still throughout the immersion in terms of this, let's say, because this is the very theme, the theme of being taken over, right? So we want to tread gently. And so when we actually go into the intricacies of what Samavesha stands for, like etymologically as well as in terms of particularly how it is viewed in a sense of the progression from individual consciousness to universal consciousness. It will become clearer.
Thank you so much.
Good, April.